Right. As you know, Andrew Geary has retired as our ward councillor. Because his retirement is within 6 months of an election, there will be no by-election and the new ward councillor will be elected in May. Andrew has served us for 20 years, representing Castlethorpe and some other villages, and he's done us proud. In particular, he's protected Castlethorpe from unwanted development, starting with the Milton Keynes local plan, then in development, which would have allocated further housing to Castlethorpe, and right through to Plan MK and its initial aberrations of placing a 5,000 house satellite settlement on top of Castlethorpe, or an urban extension up to Havisham and ending at the Dips. We won some planning matters and we lost some, but overall Castlethorpe today is a far better place because of Andrew. Of course, he did one or two other things as well, such as leading the Conservative group, being leader of the council for 3 years, and serving as mayor of Milton Keynes. On behalf of the parish council, I would like to thank Lisa for her forbearance in allowing Andrew to be our ward councillor, and to thank Andrew and wish him and his family all the best for the future. And if I could pause at this point to see if any other councillors would like to add their thanks to Andrew.
Well, I just think, Chair, I think you've said it all there, but just to reiterate, wishing Andrew and his family all the very best from now on. And I don't believe in all the time that Andrew's joined us, he's ever let us down with anything. He's come back with straight answers for everything we've done. So we owe him a great debt of gratitude. And actually, that testimony you've got there should go on Facebook, I think.
Okay. We can probably do that, can't we? Okay, in that case, I'll move on a little bit further. Being a good few years older than Andrew, I hesitate to say out with the old, but certainly I'm very happy to say in with the new, and welcome Sophie and Jacob, who are both watching the parish council meeting this evening and could no doubt improve our technology were they to be here. But it's their first step in their Duke of Edinburgh Bronze Award, and they'll be helping Steve Bradbury sort through about 100 years worth of parish council records, currently residing in Steve's garage, as they previously resided in Carron Hills, and previously.
Yeah.
Turning to this evening's meeting, if I just very briefly introduce it, there are brief reports on our meeting with the MKC Road Safety Officer, on the first steps that Hanslope Parish Council and ourselves are taking to help Hanslope Surgery access S106 funds in order to expand their services, and there'll be a brief statement on plans for the celebration of the Queen's Jubilee in June. The only planning application that we've got this evening is actually the discharge of conditions for the archaeological study at Maltings 2, or Carrington Close it's now called. Although the parish council doesn't normally comment on discharge of conditions, the introduction to the study is really quite interesting reading, confirming the original settlement of the area in the Middle Iron Age around 400 BC, and evidence of Romano British occupation. It also confirms that Hanslope was here first and only moved up the road in about the 14th century. So I like to repeat that whenever I got the opportunity. There are only 2 resolutions this evening: to install an all-weather cricket wicket at the sports ground, and the other to engage a solicitor to draw up a draft deed of transfer of the freehold of the sports ground to the parish council. So with that, I'll open the open forum, and I think the representative of the cricket club wanted to speak.
It's us.
Sorry, could I just say beforehand, Chair, the actual detail of the quotes is commercial in confidence, and so we'll be considering that. So if you could kind of, in making comments, actually make them on like the various benefits and disbenefits of what's being provided rather than referencing companies direct. Okay, guys.
David, if you want to come and sit here.
Yeah.
We'll be on the camera.
Right, well, the cricket club have an opportunity to move the facilities to another level. We've been approached by Stony Stratford Cricket Club, who have a membership of over 200 children, believe it or not. And so they are looking for a club that could help them with some of their games, and obviously they can't cope with that amount of children. Now it boils down to Castlethorpe Cricket Club trying to install an artificial wicket, which will cater for 25 of the games, and also for 5 ladies fixtures on a Sunday. All these matches will take place on Sunday. We don't use the ground on Sunday. We play the cricket on Saturday. There'll be one game on a Sunday morning. There are 10 o'clock starts, 2020s, which is a 3-hour game. The ladies play Sunday afternoons, 5 games throughout the season, spread out 1 PM starts. There is an income for the club, which we can reinvest into the club. There will be also an increase in player availability, which we're desperate for. These children are up to 16-year-olds, and we have 3 playing for Stuart in his President's Day. And I can say they're coached by the county and a very good standard. So we'll also have membership availability with parents coming along and hopefully liking our facilities as we do, joining Castlethorpe Cricket Club. We can use the all-weather wicket for practice matches, so the club can use it. And obviously it maximises the sports ground a bit more as well. So all in all, I think it's something we should be looking at to try and move the club forward with facilities. Yeah, we still have the smallest changing rooms in the world, and we've got no bar, but I mean, it's helping us to move forward
Okay.
another level.
You have obtained some quotations for redoing the wicket.
We have.
They will be considered in part 2 of the meeting because it's commercial in confidence, but and unfortunately you can't be in part 2.
Should I say a preference or not?
But yeah, if you would give us an indication, tell the council it's your preference as to the supplier.
There is only one. These are all ECB approved because these dues can't on all weather wickets that aren't ECB approved. And there was one chap who was recommended by the sportsground services that used to look after our square for 20-odd seasons, although we're doing it ourselves now because of health problems he's had. And an option 2 from a company called Exclusive Leisure Limited. In actual fact, their T-base system requires no maintenance whatsoever. So me being in charge of the ground would please me. These guys can just turn up, bring their foldable stumps, and away they go again. So I mean that would be our preference.
Exclusive leisure.
Yeah, that was the name of the company. There was a charge for removing excessive soil, which I don't know. I've walked the ground, as you can imagine, several times, and whether it could be put down by the tennis court in that dip, or I don't know. We know somebody that might take away excessive soil. I don't know.
Yeah, I think didn't all 3 actually?
They will all have that.
All 3 had that cost in there, but I don't know whether it's worth approaching Luke to see whether he'll take.
Well, we could do, yeah. I mean,
Because part of that will be
as a cost,
as
as cost mitigation, yeah, we can look at that. So if it's the same for all 3 of them, then yeah, there's no.
Obviously, they obviously will have a time lapse between removing the soil, because obviously they'll have to send in a lorry to do the job, which I think is where the cost is coming from.
Yeah,
I don't know how much soil is involved, but
yeah,
just
I think Dave. So I think Dave answered my question. I was going to ask whether they factored the ongoing maintenance into the overall total cost. By the sound of it, it has been.
Okay. Any other, Ian?
How deep has it got to be then, though?
Oh, I forget the figures, but I think it goes down quite a way with the different layers.
It's got to be put.
Yeah.
It's
They have to obtain a certain bounce and all this.
Yeah.
Within the,
Yeah, well, then what you've got to remember up there, it's made up Hanslope clay underneath.
yeah, we've actually Stony Stratford obtained their own quite before all this went off. But for them to obtain a grant, which they can, because they've already got junior cricket and ladies cricket in progress, they wanted part ownership of this wicket and also a 5-year contract, and the committee, cricket club committee, that's not going to happen.
Right. Have any other councillors got any questions?
When's the season start? When it needs to be
Will be
needs
there
to be
first
done
guy.
by? Or is there, sorry, is there a settlement time that needs to be done by, say, beginning of April to let it settle, or would it be available pretty much after?
I think these wickets will be played on immediately. They're put down now.
But I think it's true because, you know, just for the record, I was invited to the cricket club AGM a couple of weeks ago. I think you really do need us to agree this tonight if it's going to go ahead, in order to meet the lead times for the supplier to put it in. So that's really part of the question there. Are there any other questions for David?
So that will be down to Castlethorpe full stop. Stony Stratford can use it, but they, you know, you're saying, well, they want it, it's got to be a contract. I mean, we've got to keep total control of that.
Correct.
Yes, no, indeed.
And I
And
understand that.
That's all right, that's the right thing.
And Ian, you will see that I've written this in the brief for the resolution, that it is only a rent now, not a sublease. So it's a much simpler relationship.
At this moment in time, we've only agreed a 3-year deal and to be reviewed annually with either party able to cancel upon review. So if there's any problems at all.
Yeah.
Can I just reiterate to what you said, Phil, about the timing? It has to be in place by May the 1st.
Yeah.
And the matches will take place over 3 months. There won't be any great demand on other parts of like the change rooms, for example, because they will change and go. I suppose they might want to use the loo from time to time, but generally we don't think there'll be a lot of extra work for David and others who work up at the ground. So, but yes, timing is quite. I think the guarantee is that they will produce it in time, as long as we give them the how much was it? 2 months notice, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, look. Okay. I mean, I think we've probably got all the information we need now. We've got a resolution to proceed in part 1, which you're welcome to stay for, but will be in about 3/4 of an hour's time or half an hour's time or whatever. And then the actual selection of the supplier is in part 2, which is follows the main meeting. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. If you don't need us,
No. Right, Leo, I think you wanted to speak. Just to let you know, I mean, you asked Steve, and he did circulate your document to all of the councillors, so you can assume that we've read it rather than reading right through it. And councillors, I have turned it into a Word document and put it and the photos in your online packs for this evening. You can refresh your minds. So, do you want to come round, Leo, so you'll or next down, whichever.
I sent an email to all the councillors on the issue of the stormwater predilection to try and get 100% affordable housing rather than 30%, which is actually what the section 106 says. And I think, to be quite blunt, what really irritated me was when I walked past it and I see Stormwater's sign which says 31 houses, affordable housing. You know, it's to be blunt, it's sticking two fingers up, isn't it, really? And I think this is something not to be ignored by the council. This is a very serious issue. And I suggest at this point, the appropriate action is for the council to write to MKC planning, pointing out that the stormwater advert, which is what it is effectively, because it's asking for people to respond who are interested in that type of housing, saying it is not true, it's a false description, and it has no legal basis as it's contrary to the section 106 document, which is the only legal basis of the development. And also that it sits on the same hoarding as another sign which says partners Milton Keynes Council, which makes Milton Keynes Council complicit in it, basically, doesn't it? It's done deliberately for that reason, I suggest. And I think, you know, it's not something that the parish council should tolerate. I think it's Milton Keynes Council has been very lax on this. They haven't responded to your email, Phil, raising their legal points, I don't think. That was written on the 20th of January. Milton Keynes Council are just sort of hedging it, aren't they? They're not doing anything. And I think, you know, CPC is a public body and shouldn't allow itself to be treated like this by both Milton Keynes planning and the developer. You know, it does require a firm response, is my suggestion. And I said, the words I would suggest along the line, which I've just said, are stormwater ad is not true, it's a false description, it has no legal basis because of it doesn't comply with the S106, and also it makes MKC complicit in this because on the same holding they are recorded as a partner. You know, it's not a tidy situation, is it?
Okay. Shall I respond, Leo, and then
Yeah.
see where we get it? And then I'll open it up and we can all see where we stand. Another resident had actually complained to me some time ago, and I did walk down. I took pretty much the same photographs that you took, and I circulated it to all councillors, and I asked whether you would wish me to, or whether you wanted to object to the adverts. And there were no responses. Okay, so that's the first bit. However, I do think that your quite rightful annoyance is that dependent on the substantive issue as to whether it's going to be 100% affordable housing or the 30% in the S106. Now, you came and spoke to us and stiffened our resolve at the January meeting. It took about just over a week to get the email written because we did go around the houses a bit to try and make sure it was right. But that did go off, as you say, on the 20th, which is about 2.5 weeks ago. So whilst it's not what you would call a prompt response, I wouldn't say that they're literally just not going to respond. I would normally expect them at the very least to say, we're not going to respond. You know, I mean, they can't just not do it. Now, if Milton Keynes Council maintain that they are going to allow 100% affordable housing there, then the parish council will have to consider whether it wants to take matters further and how it would take things further. If it is only 30% affordable, then of course you're quite right, and we should object to the signage. If, however, it stays at 100% and the parish council decides it doesn't want to take further action on this, then I'm really not quite sure, there's any point in complaining on this one thing. That is my personal view. The big issue is whether it's 100% affordable or 30% affordable as per the S106 agreement. Now, does any other councillor want to respond on this before we? I mean, we can't actually resolve anything this evening, but of course we could write a letter. I could write a letter of complaint just as effectively with the chairman of the parish council, which I quite often do. Ian?
Surely, I know we've been over a bit of this before, but surely the fact they started before anything was sorted out, because we had the argument before it was even started. So I thought there's 2 beds, 3 beds and 4 beds. So if it's social 4 beds, how many homes are going to be in it? Where's your parking for it all? That's my problem with it. The shape and sizes up and down, and they shouldn't have started it beforehand.
Well, I think there are several things in what you said there, Ian. One is there is a mixture of housing there. I can't remember offhand how many 4 beds there are, but there are, I think, 5 different house types in there. And one house type is a 4-bedroom. It might only be one 4-bedroom house, but there is a mixture. There is a parking allocation to each, which I think from memory is 2 spaces per house, and they are committed to that. So in that sense, they are compliant with the planning permission. And actually, Steve has been taking up with the case officer regularly a whole series of variances and saying, have you done this, have you done this, and so on. It is correct that they have jumped the gun on a whole series of permissions that they should have had before they started work. For example, I mentioned that they've got a discharge of conditions on the archaeological survey coming up. They're meant to have submitted that before they put a spade in the ground. They've actually, as I understand it, they've got well on with at least 2 houses now up to the 1st floor. This is, it's not where they are. They're meant to have got a lot of other things sorted out, such as the highways agreement, which is not there yet. They're meant to have sorted out the surface water, which has only just come through, I think, in the last month. So there's a lot of stuff that they've not done right. Now, I don't know, because I'm not experienced in these things, whether this is a normal thing for developers to do. But all I can say is that each and every one of these points has been raised with the case officer, mostly by Steve. And Steve has, and the case officer has said it's okay. The one area where he agreed it wasn't okay was the brick type that they were using. Where they've gone for what is now a matching type, but they were going to match Maltings Field, which is a different type altogether. So, yes, they have not developed by working in accord with their permissions, but it is not at a level that Milton Keynes regard as worthy of a stop order.
Yeah, well, this is my situation. When we built Paddock Close, those 6 houses coming down the first stone ones, Paddock Close, coming down to Warburton Road, were supposed to be in brick. Now, Milton Keynes haven't got, I've said this before, I'll say it again, they haven't got enough people in their office. They put it out to private people, then give that back to Milton Keynes, and that's where we're being stuffed all the time. And when we learn, we've got to learn. That is how it's done. This is where, through Maltings Field there, through Paddock Close into Maltings Farm, the entrance is blocked up.
But look,
They moved, let me finish. They moved the storm thing from Moy Johnson over to there. Now they want to take the trees out and build a house there.
But everything you're saying is right, but the issue that Leo has raised is the advertising hoarding. Does anyone care?
Well, to be honest, maybe it's a starting point to actually getting them to actually listen by doing something like that, because at the moment just nothing happens. I know that you and Steve, for instance, have been back and forward with Milton Keynes Council, trying to get them to acknowledge that basically this is not sticking to the S106, it's not sticking to our plan, it's not sticking to Milton Keynes' plan either. but nothing happens. So maybe we have to do something like this, because we need to get them to listen. And how do we get them to listen? Otherwise, it will just be too late.
If somebody's ignoring you in a situation like this, you have to get their attention.
Why can't we go for
absolutely,
why don't we go for a site meeting of 4 or 5 of us? And have a solicitor there if necessary.
Could we invite Milton Keynes Council to sit in one of our meetings?
Yeah. Well, getting them to reply to the letter of complaint that was sent is the first thing. I mean, that's a substantive item. If we do not, oh, George.
Sorry, Chair, just point of clarification. Have you had any feedback from the planning officers yet as to the fact that they are intending to allow 100% affordable housing, or have you just not heard that they're not?
No. If you remember, and Chris, I think, was at the meeting as well, we had a meeting on it, and Steve. Oh, you weren't? No. Russell. We had a meeting on the 5th of November.
That was the one I failed to get to.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think got stuck somewhere in traffic.
Oh,
And at that meeting, which was actually about broader issues of compliance with the neighbourhood plan, we raised the question of 100% affordable. And they basically said to us that they were not able to prevent the sale of the houses more or less to anyone. And indeed, I then did write that in my sort of pre-Christmas news sheet. And it was then that Leo came back and pointed out, well, I shared the S106 agreement, which is a public document, with Leo, and he pointed out that actually what it says is it is 30%, and reading on further, it says that any variation of the 30% can only be done by agreement by MKC in writing, and actually as agreed at a Development Control Committee meeting. So on that basis, I wrote to MKC. You know, we put the draft of the email around a couple of times, but it went on the 20th. Our meeting was on the 10th, and we haven't had a response to that. So what I propose, I mean, we're now after started our main meeting yet, but what I propose is that I will give MKC at least 3 weeks, maybe at the beginning of next week, to respond to the email that we've sent, which I think you were copied on, George. I think it was, and I think Chris was copied as well. So the ward councillors are involved in this. If there is not a response, I will write to them asking for a response and pointing out that they are advertising 100% affordable, which appears to be in contravention, and also that they are stating MKC as a partner, which is not my understanding, and see where that takes us. So we'll do that. Is that acceptable as a way forward?
I find it more acceptable if you made it 2 weeks, not 3.
Yeah. Well, I think it means 3 weeks overall.
Oh, I see.
Not another 2.
No, not another 3 weeks.
No.
Okay.
I'm talking about doing it at the beginning of next week.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fine.
3 weeks would be this Thursday.
Yeah, that's fine.
So it's beginning of next week.
Yep.
As long as something happens, because we literally need to look after we're here to help the residents, and how can they downsize, or how can their family stay here if there is no opportunity for them to actually?
I absolutely agree.
Yeah.
So,
still,
all right.
We should not be asking, if something doesn't happen very quickly, what to ask them to come and have a site meeting with 2 or 3, 4 of us all there. So we're like, no, well, somebody from Milton Keynes is going to talk correctly about it.
Well, I think the way the chair's doing it will
Yeah.
work.
Yeah.
That gets the response you want.
Okay.
that has to be the next step, and then I think we
Yeah,
have to do
and
something.
then we'll see how we go.
I think we'll give George the last word.
Thank you, Chair. I have talked to Andrew about this the other day, and we went through. There are some documents in Milton Keynes planning documentation that refer to not more than 30% rather than exact. But that is not a definite case either way. However, I think it would be quite sensible for the parish council rather than talking about there being too much social housing, to actually talk about there being not enough commercial housing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because you want to people to be able to downsize and that sort of thing. So rather than saying we don't want 100% social housing, you should be saying we want our 70% of affordable housing, of open market housing for people in the village to be able to
I think
buy,
that's-
and address it that way. It'll be much more diplomatic. Because the problem that MKC have is the fact that whilst you might say there are only 30% affordable housing in this block, they can still sell the other 70% at the same price to the same people, and you can't stop them.
Well,
And
I mean,
that's the problem. It
I
might
think-
not be technically affordable housing,
Yeah.
but they're an affordable housing association.
well,
organisation.
no,
Doing the same way.
let me respond to that. I mean, firstly, the MKC planning policies say that it should it should be between 30 and 50%.
Yeah.
And not more than 50% except under special circumstances. The thing that particularly caught me in this last month was that there is a housing allocation, new housing allocations policy that's come out. And it does make clearer who does not qualify for social housing from MKC. And in particular, if you're a downsizer, you do not qualify. And if you've got savings more than, I think it's £16,000, which is, the sort of amount that people would normally be saving up for a deposit on a house, means that first-time buyers are also likely to be excluded. So it definitely excludes the people that we would have wanted. But all of the planning policies just inform the planning decision, the decision notice that is issued, which is the legal document. And that planning permission has been issued. But in that planning decision notice, it does say that, well, in the S106, which is attached to it, it does say 30%. And any variation, it doesn't say if you want to go less than that, which is probably what they meant, you have to get MKC's agreement. It just says any variation has to have MKC's agreement in writing. So that's really where we've gone. But I think we have probably taken this as far. This is just the open forum we're in at the moment. So with everyone's agreement, I will stop it there unless there are any other matters, Tony.
I would just say, Chair, that I thought George's suggestion was really on the button there, and appreciate that. Turn it around.
So the only thing I would say is the legal document is the S106. Anything else doesn't matter unless it's varied.
Yeah, no, indeed. It's that, and it's the inspector's decision and so on. Yeah. Okay, thank you very much, Leo. We're keeping us on the straight and narrow as usual. Right, we'll now of 12. Right. We'll now move to the parish council meeting itself. Received apologies for absence from Dave Hines due to family commitments. Are there any declarations of interest in any of the agenda items that councillors need to declare? To agree the minutes of the two meetings that we held, the ordinary meeting of the 10th of January and the extraordinary meeting, which was the physical meeting to agree the precept of the 17th of January. Are there any amendments of fact that anyone would like to raise? In that case, can I have a proposer, please? That's John, and the seconder is Russell, and all in favour of agreeing those.
On with the 10th, not the 17th.
Right.
Is that for both, Chair?
Yeah. Just sign these. To receive reports, so we have the clerk's report, and there's quite a lot of meat in this month's clerk's report. So if we just do look at it quite carefully. Item 1, we'll just take as a block. There's several points in there. Have you got a roofer for the roof tiles?
Yeah, it'll be Michael Laver, but it's just a matter of consolidating over work.
Okay. Now, on items, I think 2 through to 11, would any councillors like to raise any points? Steve?
Yeah, for item 10, Ian, I dropped you off a map.
Yeah, I didn't realise it was stuck to the other one.
Oh, sorry, yeah. Sustrans have asked us to, they've had quite a job identifying who owns the land between there and Hanslope through land registry. So I approached the Oracle and said,
Big mark, yeah.
so do you think that's something that?
Yes, I've got it too. Yeah, I read it totally was different where I was thinking that you were going, that they were going to come with it, but I realise now I'll try and do it both through and all tomorrow.
By the sound of it, they've actually ruled out all the stuff that's going up Hanslope roadway. And they're going to incorporate Hanslope Park, so they're going to go around that.
Which was talked to him years
Going to
ago.
go up Bullingstone Road?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That looks like, they haven't said as much, but yes, it's pretty obvious.
Okay,
Chair,
that's good.
Some detail there.
Chair, on 9,
On 9,
if it's bigger on 9, learned this week that the Milton Keynes Council will be receiving their delivery of blue bins on the 14th.
right, okay.
So hopefully all the orders will be met.
Okay, and for any villagers watching who've lost their blue bins, what the manager at MKC said was that he would deliver a small number, I think it was about five, to Steve Bradbury. And if you do run out of, or if your blue bin goes missing, if you contact Clark, he will basically try and get one for you.
But I think there are 3 councillors at the top of the queue already.
Well, I put mine in a sheep box tub. Well, one bloke chucks it tub away in with the grass, and the other one leaves it behind. But the best thing I thought, I come follow the dustbin at Bullingstone Road last week, and nearly all the grass went in the order rubbish.
Yeah.
Just took it in the rubbish.
Yeah,
Unbelievable.
I did see, actually, I did see them sort of slinging the recycling into the back
Yes,
of the
very
lorry.
sorry.
And I couldn't see that they were distinguishing it, but there we go.
That's
I
too
don't
Chair,
know.
oh, sorry.
Yes, but
Anyway, look,
Anyway.
let's not dwell too long. The blue boxes for residents will be supplied with Steve.
But
Any
Yeah.
other points?
Yeah, I just want to on that blue box thing, we've actually filed a full complaint about that and asked for an investigation. Because I also lost my box and it was out there at 7:30 and gone at 7:33. It's a lorry had been in, dumped it, and it got worse because the next week we put the boxes out, bottles out in a cardboard box, nicely labelled, and they left them. So we've complained to the full complaint and asked for an investigation into why the people around here are crushing resident bins.
They won't
Yeah.
take cardboard unless it's in a white.
So it's their fault because they took the stuff away.
Yeah,
Haven't had a blue box for
absolutely,
weeks.
absolutely, yeah.
Now.
There's been a lot of complaints on Facebook, right?
Sorry, Chair.
Can we move on? Anything else on that? Then we then
what
come
about
to,
number 12?
yeah, let's look at number 12. What did you want to say on that?
I just wonder, you've been down there and had a look. At the end of the day, it was going to be a picnic area, but Milton Keynes were going to pay for it, and they were going to do the water tower at the same time. They had the money, but where's it gone?
Well,
Yes.
the money did go, there was and this is like a long time ago before. I
Joe
was-
Glasgow was dealing with it with me and Reg Scotland.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is right.
But anyway, at the moment, getting money out of Milton Keynes to do that will be a big ask. I think though, for residents watching, what we're talking about here is the potential refurbishment of the water tower and the creation of a sort of a seating area, a nice seating area around it. Darren and Steve went down there to have a look and felt that it was really beyond immediate
Yeah,
improvement.
and the maintenance provided by the parish council would be too expensive for owners.
Correct.
Yeah.
I've never really understood why anybody would want to picnic by the water tower right next door to the
But you're,
road.
you're walking up,
Yeah.
you've got your sodding up.
Right. I mean, just to put in the last little bit of information, which is that in making some inquiries on behalf of the Jubilee celebrations, one resident did suggest that we might try and get the water tower refurbished. Now, clearly it's not going to be done by June, but it possibly is something that could be done as a longer term issue. But we need to get some funds. What I could do on this actually is I could drop Martin Ellison a note and just see whether he could give us some advice on, because on a conservation point of view, what could be done with it. I mean, it may say nothing.
Well, it's supposed to be preserved, isn't it?
I don't think no, it's not. I mean, we actually did declare it as a building of local interest in the last neighbourhood plan. Actually, on the suggestion of conservation, who said, that will stop Milton Keynes Council knocking it down. So it's not really protected. It's a building of local interest.
I thought the time we'd come to the next Del Glasgow and I was talking about it, it was. I mean,
In
John,
fairness, Chair,
Anyway, right.
that was asbestos at the top of the tower.
Yeah.
Which has not helped, but it is one of the last remaining water towers.
Yes, there's
only two in the country.
Only two.
Yeah. Well, look, I'll ask Martin Ellison whether he can, and his boss, whether they've got any ideas about what could be done, make a project.
We did tinker with, Chair, that because we've got the steam that's come through, as you'll know, come through there, and we did tinker with the idea of putting the water tower once a year in operation so that local children could come and see what the history of the railway was.
Yeah, that's
But that's a long way away.
serious money. Yeah. Right, let's move us on then. Queen's Jubilee we're going to talk about a little bit later. The speed indicator device, as it happens, I popped down to traffic technology today and I picked up a replacement battery, so hopefully we're back in operation. And I gave a little report anyway, which you've got on the meeting with the Road Safety Officer. You commissioned the camera survey of the drains, and you're waiting for the Community Infrastructure Fund decision. Yeah. Right. I think anything else? In that case, let's move on then. Carrington Close development. Well, I think we spent a long time talking about that, so I propose to move past that. The visit by the Road Safety Officer. I have put a note in your files. Basically, they are withdrawing most of the city. It turns out that we are the only parish in Milton Keynes that's actually established a relationship with the police and pass our data to them regularly, and that they then come and do enforcement following on that data. So the Road Safety Officer tells us. So anyway, that's good to know. Not for those people who've been caught speeding, of course, but for the safety of the residents, it's good to know. So hopefully the SID will be back in operation, and Keith has actually withdrawn the rest of the SIDs anyway. He's allowing them to be retained if they are in use, as ours is, in regular use as ours is. And he has said that if we continue to have problems, he'll swap ours with one of the returned units, which is good. Many of them are in pristine condition. There you go. Meeting with Hanslope Surgery, John and I and Martin Palmer and indeed Eileen Price, two councillors from Hanslope, met with Hanslope Surgery. They are looking to do some improvements to cope with the extra number of residents that are clearly arriving, particularly in Hanslope. We have allocated a certain amount of S106 funding, about £50,000 from Carrington Close, which hopefully will come through. Hanslope, of course, have got about 10 times that amount. One of the first schemes is probably some building extension to put in a 24-hour dispenser, which would relieve some of the burden on the services inside the surgery. But I mean, this is all very early days, yes.
You see, what you say, that Hanslope got 106 money, we've got 106 money. Well, I can't understand what they're doing for people in Hanslope. Milton Keynes have lost the money that they're going to put zebra crossing in with traffic lights by the school. Gone, won't do anything about it. Milton Keynes said, haven't got it.
Well, I really can't. I mean, just for clarity, it is a separate pot.
Oh, no.
Highways and health services are two.
Yeah, but when we get a 106, we can put it to different things, can't we?
No,
No, but the borough do it then.
no. Well, no,
Police, ambulance, whatever.
no. It is laid out in the S106 agreement exactly what it's to be used for. And just to give you an example of how tightly this is interpreted, when we wanted to use play area equipment that came from Maltings 1, and in the meantime, it took so long to build it that we'd actually done all the play equipment. Yeah. When we wanted to use it for the gym equipment, I had to actually get agreement, because Milton Keynes wouldn't do anything, of course. I had to write to the Carrington Estates to get them to agree to change the category to allow it to be used for the gym equipment. Anyway, that's by the by. Report on arrangements for Jubilee. Russell, would you like to send me?
Yes, we've got a lady who, Ashley Barry, who is going to be the coordinator of the events on the Jubilee weekend. We're having a public meeting again next week on Wednesday on the 16th in the village hall, starting at 8 o'clock. So if anybody's listening would like to help, please come along, because we do need help. We have a few volunteers at the moment, but nowhere near as many people as will be required. Yeah.
Thank Russell for doing that.
The plans at the moment are a Jubilee garden on the village green. On the Friday, a picnic, a village picnic, either bring your own or have street vendor or somebody there. On the same day, we've got plans for a procession of the children dressed in each of the clothes of the decades, 7 decades, 8 decades of the Queen's reign through the village to the picnic area. And there's also a barn dance or a dance of some sort on Saturday. That's about as far as we've got at the moment, but hopefully the meeting on the 16th will actually start things going. Phil has a note in here saying that Bandit Street Food are checking their availability to potentially attend some of the events. He's also waiting to hear whether the tenant of Manor Farm, who's is the leaseholder of the South Street, is happy about whether we can use it. If not, the sportsground is available on that day, all that weekend, because the cricket club are playing away. So it's available Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Which date in June is this?
Thursday the 2nd. So I think
Second, third, and
fourth. Second, third, and fourth.
well, it's the 3rd and 4th, I think, that we're looking at.
Yeah. There's a couple of other things. There are some medals available. Souvenir medals at the cost of 62 pence each, which potentially we could give to children.
Can I just say, Russ, they're not actually medals, they're kind of buttons. What medals is it?
It would be a medal to a child.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, just to remind councillors, I mean, John and Ian will know this, but I'm not sure. Anyway, for the last Jubilee, we did give a little medal out to the children in the village. I think Karen Hill administered it. So
previous one we had mugs, didn't we?
yeah, so
Always well received.
yeah, I mean, they're almost, they are very inexpensive. I mean, it seems to be that they're either very inexpensive or very expensive. And I couldn't really find things in between, but I think perhaps we'll put something on the agenda next time, because I think that will be a parish council item rather than
Yes, definitely.
Would
can
not
raise
be
it at the meeting
feasible
on
this
Wednesday, we can Wednesday. And also the British Legion are inviting parish councils to become involved in their Queen's Green Canopy project. So they're asking us that we plant a tree to be planted and marked with a special plaque, which is made by veterans, which costs £100. There is one further thing. I am going to be away actually on the Jubilee weekend, which I hadn't realised until I saw the dates.
Yeah, plan.
So we don't really need somebody else to actually take over runnings than me. But I'm willing to help.
I think the person who's come, I've forgotten her name, but
Ashley Barry.
yeah, who's going to be, you know, I think she will do it. I mean, we as a council will coordinate it, but I don't think we're really the village entertainment
need a
committee.
coordinator on the day though, because I won't be here.
Yeah, no, but she should do that. That's the, Ian.
When we had the tree man round, if you remember.
Yeah.
We saw it in the fish
Yeah.
ponds, then we went down to the
Yeah.
bottom corner by the checkers, by the old people bungalows. The gentleman said he would take the cherry tree out that's dead and plant one of the Queen's trees with a plaque then.
What, by Dave Hines' house?
No, up the side of the road, but as you go around, as you go into the checkers, then and turn there, the bungalows are there, and right by the first bungalow, there's a cherry tree on the side of the road.
Oh, right.
He was going to take the cherry tree out and put one of the Queen's ones in. So we could ask him if it's possible, we could put a plaque on it, which would be suitable like the old people's bungalows.
Yeah. Thanks for that, Ian, because one of the real problems that we've got is, I know it seems funny in a rural parish, is finding places where we can safely plant trees. So there we go. Thank you for that. Right, that's Jubilee.
Sorry, I was just going to say, like the little pin things, are mugs not feasible? Because I know that mugs just last so much longer, pins get lost, and children will, I know Ollie's still got his mug from.
Yeah, well, look,
that's all I was thinking.
let's suggest, we'll have something on the agenda for our March meeting. If councillors would like to, you know, have a good browse, see what's available, because when we looked, in fact, I think when you looked about 2 months ago, there was almost nothing on the market at all. I think there is stuff now coming through. So we can look at that, we can consider it as a council and decide what we're going to do.
Well, I always think of mugs the same, and B, I think we've got to set an age limit, what they have, like we got up to.
If you design your own mugs, I think they cost about £3.50 to £4 each, so we're going to be cheaper than buying.
That's good. I saw some with £5 upwards, so that's quite competitive
You run
price.
a competition with the children to make a design.
Well, yeah, except
Okay.
Time
competition.
constraints.
Yeah, I mean, the time. All right, that's really good. So, Steve, we can have that on the agenda next time.
Yeah, that'd be,
Right, now, let's, I think we need to, moving now. There's I mentioned 5.1 is discharge of conditions and the archaeological study. Having looked at it, I mean, basically it's no further action is recommended right the way through, so I don't think we've got any comment, but I would commend it to you if you haven't read it. It really is quite an interesting preamble about the village. It really is. Its history goes back before you were born, Ian.
Yeah, I was in
Jurassic Age.
Right. Section 6, which are previous planning applications. I don't. Does anyone want to comment on any of those? We'll take them as a block. No. No. Okay, let's move on then. So section 7 is, I propose a public exclusion part 2 of the meeting to discuss matters in accordance with Schedule 100 of the Local Government Act 1972. Anyway, this is basically for commercial and yes, commercially confidential matters. Fundamentally, it is, there's nothing hugely secretive about this. It's just we've got 3 quotes and we have to discuss those for the cricket wicket. We've got to consider a quote for cleaning the village signage, which we do every spring to spring clean the village, all the signs in the village, and to consider the replacement of the village handyman. So, you know, we need to talk about people, so we won't do that publicly. So it's, you know, it's nothing more, but I propose that. I need a seconder.
Yeah.
Ian.
I'm gonna go back 6.5 when you're ready.
Go second.
Yeah, and that's all this, yeah. Sorry, I did need to go back.
6.5.
Yeah.
Last week, how many lorries went down the road with their caravans on again? The lorries. In queue, long line. Not supposed to be going down there.
I've, as I think I said on email, I've got some contacts at work now regarding the bridge and also
The bridge way, yeah.
So they are on it. So
Yeah.
I've chased them up with, there's somebody been assigned to Carrington Close for discharge and everything. So
I did see the guy there the other day.
Okay, that's good. So yeah, I know they were going to check on that. I just need to chase up about the bridge because I sent them through a picture of the 5-ton, and Steve had sent me a photo of a lorry going over. So
Actually going the other way,
Yeah.
from the park.
yeah, there's obviously there.
But
Yeah, I tend to go Eden's way, but come out the other.
Yeah, but it's to do with size, isn't it? They can get through Cosgrove and they haven't got the load. They have to come in.
but the
with the
kind of
load. Yeah.
what Network Rail think is
Yeah.
the bridge.
Well, look, this is, I mean, that's,
Yeah.
Ian has been saying about that bridge for as long as I can remember.
Don't
Thank you
forget,
very
I
much.
own the barn, so I know
Yeah.
what I'm talking about.
Thank you very much, Darren, for progressing it, because
Yeah.
we've never actually been able to get into that.
Got the name of the bridge as well. if you want.
No. Right, so we move on to 7.2, which is to install an all-weather wicket at the sports ground. Now, I have put a short note in your packs that just give the background to that, but I think in fairness, it's already been you know, very well explained by David Spinelli. So I am simply going to propose that the parish council, well, no, I will propose that the parish council resolves to install an all-weather cricket wicket, subject to the examination of quotes in part 2. Now, does anyone wish to speak on this first?
No, I think Dave's given us the idea. I mean, what worried me, Stone Stratford come in and say, oh, we're going to rip it out.
Yeah,
Yeah, that
that's,
sort of thing.
no, it's ours. And that's why we are buying it, the parish council. Right, in that case, do I need a seconder?
Yeah.
Yeah, so John is seconder and we're all in favour, that's great. And we now move on to the second matter concerning the sports ground, which is that you'll be aware, again, I put a brief in your packs about the Allotments Association, who the management of it, which are different to the shareholders. So the management, people like Martin Gallop and Tim Flack, who live in the village and work the allotments, but they're not actually shareholders. The shareholders who own it, I don't know who they all are, but apparently there are only 2 of them left in the village.
Doesn't matter.
And the others have moved away. Now, when they were asked if they would be supportive of transferring the freehold, they actually voted against it, mainly because, in Martin's opinion, they didn't really understand the protections that we intended to give, and indeed have already given through its designation as a local green space in the neighbourhood plan. So what I suggested was, and we would have to do this anyway, because we did actually say that we would pick up the legal cost of this, is that we would get a solicitor to draft a deed of transfer of the freehold from the Allotments Association to the parish council. That is basically, and then that can be circulated as a draft to the Allotments Association shareholders. And if they've got a problem with it, then they can say so.
Yeah.
And we'll know where we stand. If they don't, we can then go ahead and get that transfer.
Well, they all had a divvy out at the first time, didn't they?
Yeah.
So let's wait and see.
Let's wait and see.
They're living here to Timbuktu,
Yeah.
etc.
Okay, so that's, I'm proposing that. Would any other councillor like to speak?
No? All
I
right.
was down on it.
Okay, so Russell. Russell is seconding it, and all in favour? You don't want the transfer?
No.
All right.
The principle of it is the people that are originally there. If we're going to spend parish council money on solicitors, when you've got to go from Bangkok to Timbuktu to Australia, the USA, what is that going to cost?
Nothing.
There's 12 people, there's 12 people on there, I believe.
You do it by emailing. It costs absolutely no more to send an
Well, look,
email to Bangkok.
You've got to buy them first, haven't you?
No, they've found them. They've got postal addresses. I mean, there are some which are deceased and the shareholdings have yet not gone through probate, but basically they do know how to contact them. Okay, anyway, we voted, you're abstaining.
Yeah, I'm
so it's still carried.
Yeah.
7.4, we haven't had a quote for that gravelling yet, have we?
I've not seen it.
No, I haven't, so we'll defer that. Right, so we now move on to the RFO payment schedule. 8.1. So it's
Ian won't add it.
it's basically it's the usual costs, Steve's monthly costs, RTM the landscaping, Richard Wampler for some repairs to the village hall, and elsewhere in the village, Tom Ladyman for clearing the litter bins, the new battery for the SID, and the replacement of light of the cricket pavilion, plus the usual standing direct debits.
Could I just say, Chair, that I thought that 150 quid to replace the light and come out and look at that was pretty expensive. It does sound quite expensive, so I suggest that we don't use that electrician anymore.
Who did you use?
We used some guy, who is he?
Raymond and Co.
Yeah, it's just a friend of my father-in-law's, he's just,
There
reliable.
is an excellent electrician in the village.
There is. Actually,
We tried, I think,
Okay.
There's
Well,
London
tried
School
that.
and then
Yeah.
it's just moved.
come on.
Yeah,
Excellent.
That's very good.
Before we get into a discussion on that, can we just, are there any questions about the payment schedule?
Just one thing, Steve, I rang Talk up and we're doing it, not having paper billing anymore, so we're saving £4 a month. As of this.
Right, okay, it's not, we'll see if it's on there.
Okay. All right, good. So I need a proposer and seconder. Russell's proposing, second, John is second.
Well, I'm saying it, so,
All in
yeah,
favour?
yes.
Yeah, okay, all in favour. Okay, correspondence, I think the only correspondence was from Leo, which we previously discussed, is that correct?
You did have that nice email from the lady that said, thank you for removing the 20 mile.
That is true, yes. I mean, a resident complained to me about when the 20 mile an hour zone was created, and they didn't actually create the 20 mile an hour zone into Maltings Field, which is unbelievable handedness by Milton Keynes Council, and to rub salt into the wound, they stuck a 20/30 mile an hour sign right outside her main window. And I have actually been pursuing Milton Keynes Council, I think, for at least 2 years. And they did do a road traffic order to make it all 20 miles an hour, which meant they could take the sign down, which it was removed today. So she was very appreciative. So that was very good. Right. Any other business for noting? Okay.
Yeah, the little library.
Yeah.
Needs a bit of TLC to it, so that may be for next
Well, I think really, it was done, as I said to you by
Yeah.
email, Becky Hall organised that through, it's called Men at Work or something like that.
that's right.
Which is a charity. And if they could come and,
Yeah.
do that, that would be really
I've
great.
got another couple, so.
And I think Darren said
I
that
spoke
he
to
actually.
Becky this afternoon,
Yeah.
so because our kids play tennis together. So I said we were discussing it tonight, and then I'll take back with anything specific to if we're after. We want to speak to Men at Work again, do we?
Yeah, there was the chap who turned up wearing a top hat.
Wow. They were lovely old boy.
Yeah,
Check a Bristol.
Alan something, I think his name was.
Okay.
Built it for us, and I think, if he would repair it, that would be great. I'm sure if there are any minor incidental costs in keeping it in good shape, Steve will be able to authorise it under his
That's
delegated
fine.
powers.
See if Becky's got contact. So
They're
there
very
was
good men at work.
something about a disagreement in the email, wasn't there, with somebody?
Well,
We didn't advertise
yes, the lady who painted it, and her husband who took some photographs, did feel that they didn't get the appropriate recognition, which was a bit unfortunate, but there we go.
It was beautifully painted.
It was
So
beautifully
they did a
painted.
wonderful job.
So sorry, can I just surmise this and do what out of the library?
So I'll speak to Becky and get some details for who she spoke to get it built and everything, and then we can take it from there. So,
Yeah, and come to it if you need.
I'll get in contact about doing some repairs.
Yeah.
The elliptical at the sports ground, that is lifting, it's clicking as you go, so I don't know what, they obviously didn't do a wonderful job.
Is that the one they've just fixed?
No, the stepper was the one they fixed, but this one, the elliptical's gone in the same sort of way. When you're sort of doing this, it chunks, so there's definitely something wrong with it.
Okay. Yeah.
Something else, and I can't remember what it was now.
Hold on, before you leave that one, what do we want to do about it?
Well, I think we need to get hold of Preludical then. The trouble is, the maintenance of this is very expensive.
It's turning up to it.
But they've just done maintenance, so therefore,
No.
surely.
No, they did a check. They did a repair and the check.
Well, they didn't check it very well.
They didn't check to see it.
Well, look, I think all we can do is ask Steve to talk to the maintenance organisation, see if he can, appeal to their consciences to do this without additional charges. And
it might be worth just somebody going and have a look at it, because it might just be something that's just catching on something.
Is that the one that hangs like this?
yeah, that's the one you use in the mornings.
Yeah, what they're,
I mean, I have to say that if two bits of equipment now have had the same type of problem,
I'm not sure that it is the same problem. That's the thing. I don't think it's lifting from the bolts. There's something just not right with that. It's just it doesn't feel right when you use it.
well,
Okay.
what are we going to do?
It's not smooth anymore. The elliptical,
Oh,
the one,
yeah.
Who's going to look at it and?
well, I'll go up there and have a look. I've got a police post around. I've been up to do that, so I'll go up there and that. What is the number up there, Steve, please?
What, the gate? You said you'd never forget that.
The 27, isn't it?
Are you going to broadcast?
going to broadcast that to everybody.
You will give it to you in a minute.
I'll text you the number.
Right.
The number you'll never forget.
Okay.
I have one more point.
Right.
Kay, what was the outcome of your meeting with Angry Water about the consultancy?
Okay, so Angling Water came out, well, they didn't, but their contractors did, who do their repairs. They've agreed that the big potholes that were by the actual hole, they've agreed that they will do something about those. I think there's more damage. If you look along the road, the whole thing just goes right along and follows the main where the road's cracked in the middle, but there was marks there before. So we'd have to argue that one quite a lot, but they've definitely agreed to do the other ones, but it could take time because they're going to have to close the road to do it.
Again.
Yeah, but, well, it's not as big a hassle, is it?
No,
I mean,
it's
a small route round. It's not like when they close Long Street in Hanslope and people have to do an 8-mile circuit. And they said that what they'll probably do is take out a strip of tarmac rather than just putting tarmac in the roads, because I've said we need something that's not just going to just literally sink, basically. So they'll probably cut a chunk out and fill it, that sort of rectangle there. But if you look along and you follow outside your house, I think there's more potholes that were there before, and I think that the crack in the road, which goes right along to the junction, I think that's lifted more, and now water actually sits in it. And he agreed with me, but unofficially, because he said because it obviously follows the line of the water main from that end. I said yes, because it goes right to that manhole on North Street. But he said that would have to be escalated to Anglian Water. It's not something that they could do, because that's quite a bit beyond their grade, and they will get back in touch with me. And I told him that if Anglian Water wanted a guided tour of potholes, I'd be very happy to do it. So,
well, what I will do is I'll let Naveed Ahmed at MKC know that you've liaised with the contractor to get that bit repaired, and say that, really the bit in the middle. I mean, there always was a join at that point. That's where they did join. They laid it too hard.
yeah, I get that, but
I do agree it does seem to have opened.
Yeah, because they showed me some Google Maps footage.
Yeah.
Basically 2 pictures taken from 2019. And I said it's nowhere near as bad as it is now, and that the burst water mains obviously made it worse. So I'm quite happy to keep arguing on that.
The line I will take is that it's a special asphalt. It's not black, and when other work is being done, perhaps they would use that same asphalt to do it.
Yeah.
Might even ask them here if they'll have a go at it.
I did find it quite unbelievable that Anglian Water literally filled in the hole and left 2 ginormous potholes exactly by. Another half barrow.
I actually reported the water main burst and they didn't believe me.
Well, I think that they couldn't do anything about it. That was
We're moving on.
Is everyone aware that the big swing at Fish Ponds is not there?
Yep, it's been attended to. It's got to be replaced completely. It's wrong. And Steve, have you got the recommendation?
It's in the clerk's report.
MKC are doing it.
Yeah, no, but what I'm saying is, Lee, don't start digging up fish ponds. Just put the replacement basket in.
Well, I mean, it's down to MKC how they repair it.
Yeah, they're going to repair the
They're
basket.
going to be repairing it, John. So I'm not going to solutionise with them.
No, that's fine. But I think they're going to just do the basket, and that's what we're going to do.
Anything else? Any other business?
One more little one, just this fly posting around the village. That I've taken 9 down now, and they're not in places where they should be. I mean, if they ask, and we can put them on the notice board or something like that, that's a little bit different, but just sticking them up in bus stops and around trees and telegraph poles. And I don't know what the position is of the parish council on that, and maybe something should be said on some sort of media.
I mean,
just to say that.
I think it would be reasonable to ask on Facebook, but people don't do that. If they wish to use, this is, so everyone knows, this is a very tragic case of a 16-year-old girl from Radcliffe who went into hospital, I think in November, with, it is reported, a cyst, and died shortly afterwards. Which is obviously very tragic, but is being fly posted as justice for, I think her name was Emily Rose. Emily Rose. And I don't quite understand what the justice for is. But as well as that, I mean, it is fly posting. It's in the bus shelters and even which are owned by the parish council, various other places. You're not allowed to fly post anyway. You need MKC's agreement.
The other thing is
so I do think it would be reasonable to take it down. And if people want to put it up in some place then I think they ought to make an application to the parish council,
Reasonable.
and we can consider it and agree to it as
And the other
necessary.
thing is they're in plastic and with sellotape, and what's happened is with all the wind and everything like that, some of them start rotting and there's just plastic on.
Everywhere.
Oh, yeah, so
Yeah.
that's the other problem.
Yeah, then it becomes litter. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, and also if you put notices up, I think you're meant to put up who's publishing it, aren't you?
It depends what type of.
Oh, does it? Yeah, okay. All right, well,
I
let's,
didn't want
let's
to
move.
offend anybody by taking their posters down.
No, but I think we should. I mean, it is.
Doing the right.
Right, any other business? Or we?
Well, we've got a question, George, President.
I still have some ward budget to allocate. So, okay, if there are any things that the village would be interested in. I know I've been talking to a number of people, and you've got your SIDS working, who are thinking of going into the community speed watch scheme and purchasing handheld cameras for that. I don't know whether you've been discussing.
Well, we have been discussing that. Can I ask Steve how many people we've got?
Four, including myself and Chris.
And Chris Wardle.
So there are two members of the public that came forward. One of them didn't give a name.
I mean, I have to say, it needs, with a speed gun, which is £190, you have to go into the speed watch system, which is quite a good system. You do need 3 people on each turning out. I don't think having a pool of 4 is pretty much viable, really. I think I would think you need at least double that,
Yes.
preferably nearer to 10. Speaking, I mean, John and I did speed watch for 5 years. Oh, you did, right? Yeah. So, you know, let us give some thought to that. It's got to be used before April, presumably.
It's got to be used before the end of this month.
Before the end of February.
This is
I'm not sure. I mean, I was just about to say Jubilee gifts if we're going to get something in the village. Can you give it 4 Jubilee commemorative items just on block?
I don't see any reason why not, but I will check that.
Yeah, if you can see if you can do that and pass that to Steve, and then we'll use that. Particularly if we go for something like mugs, which probably would be, you know, a fair amount. If we're going to get 1 per house is 500 of the things. That's a couple of grand's worth there. That would be well received. Thank you.
I'm really sorry, I've just remembered the other one, okay, which was the youth club. They are very, very short of money, and is there anything that we can do to help?
Well, we can, but it has to go through a resolution.
Yeah, that's fine.
And you can put it up for the March meeting.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking now.
Yeah.
Can we put?
But, I
can we
mean,
put
I
that
should
forward? Can I
say-
put that forward for the March meeting?
I should say that historically, and the youth club have asked us in the past, the parish council hasn't given the money. I mean, even to the point of not giving them free hire of the hall.
I think
So
we've
I
helped
wouldn't like to
others.
anticipate the way the debate will go.
Okay, but I think we've helped others, and I think it's a very, very good cause. They do a stonking job what else is there for youth?
Yeah.
As in here, and I would be very, very adamant, not adamant, no, I'd be very, very for it.
Yeah,
And I
well,
think
look,
others, yeah?
well,
Yeah,
look, the
so-
point is.
Okay, but yes, a
you need to
resolution
bring
please
in-
for next.
You need a
for next-
resolution if we're going to spend money. Yeah. Okay. All right. Are we all complete now?
Yeah.
Thank you. In that case, I'll thank the residents who've borne with us, and goodbye, Sophie and Jacob. And I hope you'll still turn up to sort out.
They're still with us.
They're still with you.
Are we off there, yeah?
And I'll now close part 1 of the meeting. Thank you.
So we missed, just confirm March 7th.
Yeah, March the 7th is the next meeting. Yeah. And then after that, we've got April the
2 in April.
Two in
Yeah,
April.
we've got the